Today we are talking to Rebekah. Rebekah is a former dating coaching client of mine, and after we were done working together, she wound up getting married into the relationship of her dreams. So we are going to talk to her today about her experience with all of that. Hello, Rebekah.
Hi.
It's so good to reconnect with you after we have been apart for some time since you finished my coaching program, and so much has happened in your life, and so I'm excited to see all the fruits of the work that you put in, the coaching that we did. I'm super excited to hear your story. So why don't you first just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm a newlywed as of December of 2024, December 4th. And I'm a mom to a wild little 3-year-old boy. And we we are just stunned with how God has moved, how the coaching has helped just get me to that. I can't put into words how much I'm thankful for how my life is. And it really is amazing when you can find a really deep connection. And for me, and I know how you stand with this too, a good godly firm foundation connect
Yeah.
that goes beyond a lot more other things. And um we're just really blessed. We have, we don't have all our wants, but we have everything we need. And everything went together pretty smoothly. Even the move, he was a real help in that. So,
That's good. That's good. So, what were dating and relationships like for you before you started working with me?
well, relationships were terrible because I don't know. I've always believed I could change people if I loved them the right way.
Mm,
Wrong mindset of that. And it's a good intent, good
right.
heart to have. But it leads you to a lot more struggles. For me, looking back at it, it's just they were so controlling. It was so unequal. I felt like I was pouring my heart in it, and they weren't.
Yeah.
And I just had to go through a lot of hard time with that. And I believe that as a woman of God, as any woman of God, trying to find a good relationship, and hopefully you'd want godly relationship, then you kind of need to just tell yourself, look, I can love them from a distance, but romantically wise, I should guard myself. And I know you have videos on YouTube about that, and
Yeah.
which was helpful. So, I mean, it was ungodly. It was controlling. It just was a mess. It was very drama, chaotic, a mental, I was constantly on edge, a lot of anxiety from that. So,
Yeah, it's very difficult to be in relationships that are like that. I personally do not believe that people need to stay in relationships that are abusive of any form. And I do talk about that in some of my content also, whether it's emotional abuse, physical abuse, financial abuse, sexual abuse, whatever it is. God does not call us to just lay down and accept whatever. And so boundaries are very important, which is another thing that, I help women with is setting good boundaries. And when you're dating, yes, you don't need to be trying to change people when you're dating. You need to see who are they actually now as a person rather than who am I hoping or wanting them to be later,
right.
So, what was the biggest problem you had with dating before you started coaching?
Confidence. So for me, God had to break me out of my sexual immorality first and foremost. That had to get out of my life. And once I finally gave that up and finally got out of the enemy's, um, you know, could, I felt like I never was going to get past that. For
Hmm.
always a part of my life, unfortunately. Um, but until July 2023, I cried out to God and I was like, I'm done living this way. I feel like I can't conquer this sin. Like this is just always a smack in my face. It's something that's always hindered me. That's another thing. Sex before marriage, they say not to do it, but there's so much more to that. Like it just brings on so other issues.
Right.
Um, but so once I got established, that was out of my life and I was choosing not to go back no matter, and that was really hard. I was like, well, man, maybe I can start dating. Cause I told God, I said, I want a year. I said, if all possible, Lord, I'm not trying to tell you what to do with my life. I'll obey, but I want a year to just me. And I grew with that. with my relationship with him and being strict about not doing that. So once I made it around that point, I was like, okay, Lord, I really want to get back to dating. I don't know what to do. I didn't have the confidence to keep holding up my boundaries. I felt like I couldn't think of even how to start anything. Like I felt so lost and how I guess it's an age thing. I don't know. I didn't really have a lot of, outside. I just worked, took care of my son, and went to church and went to Walmart a lot. And I remember you telling me that you thought, at one point you just go to Lowe's and meet him. Well, that's kind of how I felt too. So it was kind of funny that you helped me with that. You helped just guide me and get me to center focus on the baby steps to get me
Yeah.
confident. And then, I mean, your confidence grows. And obviously, you also help me too with the meetings. Like, if you mess up, like, don't beat yourself over. Like, let's, like Jesus, let's forgive ourselves. Most importantly, know that He forgave you. And then let's start over, go back to where you wanted to go.
Yeah, there's no use in hanging, things that you've done wrong or, maybe you said or did something that wasn't right. But then sometimes we punish ourselves for years even because of stuff like that. And it's like you have to give that to God and let it go. God has forgiven you, and it does not make you whatever kind of person you're telling yourself it makes you, which is a confidence killer, right? And so, yeah, confidence is such a huge issue because so many women don't take, first of all, the time being single like you did. I highly recommend that. So many women don't take that time to just be single, build their faith, build their relationship with God. And then also the confidence piece, because you don't want to be going into a relationship feeling like you're lacking something or feeling like you're not good enough, or, because then you're going to be looking for love in the wrong men and you're going to be settling for things that you really don't want. And how did you actually find me, if you remember? And what made you decide to go ahead and sign up to get coaching?
So it was funny because I was already talking to God. I was like, it's like I need somebody to help me, but I don't know who to turn to. And I had a family member in mind, but I was like, I feel like she'd be a little biased. Like, I want somebody to tell me if I'm wrong in my place. In other words, like, if family sometimes is not the best for that because they love you and they don't know how much truth they want to tell you. So I was like, I need like a counselor, but I was like, I don't know how to find that. I'm in Roane County of Tennessee, and I'm just like, there's like nothing down here, and I wasn't even thinking about online. So I was just having a day of scrolling like I do a lot. And it was watching reels. And then I like to read the comments. It was a really funny reel, whatever I was watching. I don't remember if it was yours specifically, but it was a
Mhm.
funny reel. And I was reading the comments, and somebody, because it was talking about, with the dating thing, it was like a humor of relationship. Anyway, and some of the comments was like, I recommend uh, Sarah, she's great, all this talking you up. I was just like, well, maybe I could find, I I clicked on her page, and then I was like, well, maybe because she tagged you in something, and for whatever reason my phone wasn't working out. So I just had to go and search you up. And I think it was literally the enemy like getting mad because it felt like it was God ordained to me because I was just talking to him about it the other day before I saw the comment. So
Yeah.
I finally found it on Facebook, and it was real easy to find. And I just looked into everything, and I think I immediately signed up to your email. So I got, because you do those. I still get those emails.
Oh, good.
I didn't unsubscribe.
Good. And I mean, some of them are still relevant. It's not all
Yeah,
about dating, some of them are
right.
for encouragement or just relationship help in general,
Yeah.
relationship tips for even after you're married.
I got to,
Um,
you
Go
know,
ahead.
things are not perfect. I was just saying that's definitely communication can always, you can get lacking or too comfortable. And yeah,
Yeah.
I like it. I enjoy it. I look through it still. So,
Mm. And so do you remember like what actually made you be like, yes, I need her help?
um, I just knew where I could tell right away what the biggest thing you were God centered. That was the biggest thing. I didn't want just a counselor in dating. I wanted a God centered. And so as soon as I found out you were that, and then I think I messaged you. Somehow I found out, you said about the payment plan, and I knew I would need a payment plan. So I was like, I didn't want to look any further after that. I was like, okay, I'm gonna go with this.
Yeah, yeah. I think it was set up, it was like God ordained, because I had such a good time working with you. And it was like the issues that we needed to work on. I was like, yes, these are the foundational pieces. These are the things that I see that women need help with that I can walk them through. And so it was a good match, I believe. Yeah. And so what happened after we started working together? So we started having some coaching sessions. How was it actually helping you?
After the first session, it was like, honestly, it was like one of those things was like, oh, duh. But it was like you were telling me you need to find your three primary things, like
Like non-negotiables, probably. Yeah.
yes. So, and then, other things. So basically what I wrote here is, you help me find out exactly what I want, the most important three, obviously God being the first thing. And then, things you definitely don't want. And then also the biggest thing, which I didn't think about, was how far do you want to put into your dating, like how distance wise, which is funny because my distance was not met with my now husband, but God works.
Yeah. Did you feel like you needed a shorter distance?
Yeah.
Okay. And
I,
I do.
I didn't feel like I wanted to run, too far. I literally was like 40 minutes. And yeah, my husband, that's 2 hours away from me, but it was worth it. And
Yeah. And I do talk with people about their specific circumstances too. Like what is maybe too far, what is not too far, because for each person, it is going to be different. Like for some people, location's not going to be a non-negotiable at all. And you had other things to consider. You had your son to consider and, things like that. So, okay, great. And then what specific results did you get and what has changed in your life?
so this is where I put the most, because I mean, it talks about my now husband that I have. So what's funny is I remember sending you screenshots of, this one guy that was talking to me, and I was just like, this is just terrible. I wanted to just show you just how much you helped me, because that was an easy thing. After having your coaching, it was an easy thing for me to be like, yeah, no,
Yeah.
you, let's not agree to disagree. And sorry, I put you got you angrily, but this is not going to work. And so it's crazy how easy that was, because usually I'm in my head about, I don't know, maybe I'm not being too nice. Maybe I'm being,
Hmm.
but, um, and that other guy that I met at that park, that one time that he was wanting to message me, but he was just separated. He had a daughter, and you were like, you don't need anybody until their divorce is finalized. That was an eye opener for me, because I was like, oh, well, that makes sense, because mine was already, finalized and stuff. And it's just, you know, saved a bunch of drama probably. That was a big thing I avoided. And you helped me with that one too. And there was this one other one that I was thinking might go somewhere. It was meeting some of my things, except the distance. Another one without the distance didn't work out the best. Um, but there was something that he said to me. He was like, my church wants me to be the pastor, and I mean, I can do it, but I get annoyed with it. And I'm like, okay. Everybody has their own different ways with God, but you're doing something that you don't even feel called to do, and you're stepping into a role to lead a church, and you're getting annoyed with it. That was a big never mind. And then I found Zach, my now husband, and it it was it went by, honestly, went by a lot of fast, really fast. Most people would be upset with how quickly it happened, but we both agreed it was God ordained. So I literally, I don't know. I pray about everything now in my life. So I prayed over Facebook dating. I said, Lord Jesus, this is all I got. This is all I got to work with, because I did want to do. Because you remember, you asked me, do you want to do in person or online? I want to do online. That's
Yeah.
how I was, or still am. And um, so I prayed. I was like, help me to open doors through this app, because this is what I got to work with. And I don't know. God is good. And It's funny because my husband said that he was actually about to give up on dating altogether. He deleted all the apps he had, and then he was going to delete Facebook dating. And there was something that he was like, I every time I went to delete it, there was something that told me no
Hmm.
for months. And then I messaged him. That's another thing. His prayer was that the woman makes the first move and everything because he was sick and tired of making the first moves, which I find hilarious because I wanted the guy to make the first move.
Yeah.
And I was hesitant about that because whenever I found his profile, I was like, oh, the reason I matched with him is because he actually took the time to put a Bible verse, his favorite Bible verse, on there, and not just click, oh, I'm a Christian.
Right.
So that eye opened me. I was like, wow, he took the time to do that. That means something more. And I remember you telling me in one of my sessions because I had an alarm set for someone I was so I wouldn't forget to pray for that was going on. And you were like, well, that's a good thing for me to stop right here and tell you, keep that in mind when you're dating. Like, watch how they do that, you know. And that was cool. That was awesome advice. And um, anyway, he was like, I just couldn't delete it, and I wasn't gonna do the first message. I matched with them, waited a few days, and I'm like, well, I don't know. And then it was kept every day. It was like, send the message, send the message.
Yeah.
So I finally did, and the rest is really history. We talked for about 3 weeks before we had our first date. And what I mean, we talked for 3 weeks. I mean, it was every single night. We video chatted for 4 to 6 hours, and
Oh my goodness.
it was just,
So see, you found the time then. Some people
yeah,
think they don't have enough time, right? Now,
I
you don't necessarily
know.
need 4 to 6 hours a night at,
And
starting out.
that
However,
was
you
really
found the time.
that was really bad for my sleep. I shut it down, but it was just hard to get off the phone. We instantly clicked. We had good deep, and that was another thing. I was praying for a man who can communicate, and we instantly got into, as we developed our relationship. After 3 weeks after our first night dating, he had the morning breakfast with me, which I wasn't gonna do because of, the whole son thing. You warned me about that and stuff. He was like, you want to take your time, you want to consider my son attachment, and I was like, but I really want, I wanted to see him again because I knew it would be a good bit before I'd see him in person. Um, so we had that breakfast date, and then later that night, he was like, well, how do you feel about being committed, like being my girlfriend? I said, I was just going to leave all that up to you since, me thinking, Christ, God, man, all that,
Yeah.
the umbrella system. And he was just, it's funny. I don't know if he was being silly or, but it was bold. He was just pretty much like, oh, well, I'm claiming you as my girlfriend now. And we just kind of laughed it off. And I didn't take that as some women could have took that as a controlling thing, but I didn't ever feel that way. I just took it as a good boldness. And we just, like I said, the rest is pretty much history after that. We did everything privately. We kind of did our own little private engagement with keychains. We didn't even do rings. And so that was like in November, or yeah. And then we just eloped. We just decided to elope. He broke his foot, so we had a lot more time. He basically
Yeah.
with me and my parents for a good little bit, and I mean, we we didn't waste no time. That was for sure. But I mean, I don't regret it at all. I mean, I would tell anybody cautious about the time. I know you are good about that too. You're like,
Yeah.
a good time, give it, especially if you don't know each other. And I still would say that too, by all means. But if you feel God moving, then sometimes you just have to push everything aside and just take the leap of faith. And
Hmm. And it sounds like you put in a lot of time getting to know him initially anyways.
yeah,
And being cautious about like you having the son and seeing, how is that going to play out and making sure that everything was okay.
that was
Okay
another
there.
thing. Always included my son. Every time we made plans, he just assumed my son would have to be there because he knew it was a single mom, which is the sweetest thing.
Yeah, I would agree. And it's something that you were looking for.
Yeah,
It's one of the things that's on your non-negotiable list is, it's not just somebody is okay with me being a single mom. It's that somebody is excited about me being a mom, that they want to embrace that, that they want to come into my life, and join with that,
Yeah.
and not, you don't want to be settling for somebody that's just like, oh, I know you're a mom, but like I want your time and I want your space and all of this stuff.
We I did say that we were on the video for long hours, but please know, and whoever's going to listen to this, there was a lot of times where obviously I gave Kate, he was just sitting there and he was doing his own thing, and it was just we were on there for a long time, but it was like we were just bonding in that way, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like we were just dead set on in like what we're doing and pushing everything else aside.
And I think it's so good too that you had prayed about the specific things that you wanted. You said that you had prayed, I want somebody that can communicate, and it's like, the phrase you get what you pay for.
Yeah,
I was just thinking you get what you pray for. Like,
yeah,
as long as you're being cautious, you're looking for the red flags and everything like that. Bring what you want before God and say, "Hey, this is what I think you would want for me to have in a
yeah,
relationship." And we can go through scripture, which I use in my coaching too, to show women, here are the qualities of somebody that God would want for you,
right,
and then you can take those to your dating and see if they line up or not, And I think it's interesting too, you said about he made a comment that previously you might have been like, oh no, was it, is that a red flag? Was that too bold? Was that, but by that time you had learned how to evaluate things.
yeah,
You had learned how to evaluate people. And I do remember you sending me screenshots from the guy at the park that you had met, and you were kind of, you were still learning like what do I do? What do I say? Like how do
yeah,
I, you know, approach him? Should I continue
yeah,
being not, you weren't involved with him, you just met him, but you were like,
yeah,
should I continue talking to him, or not? And so I was able to help you walk through that and see, like, is he showing you the qualities that you are looking for, or is he not? And then once you said, well, now that I think about it, he's not. He doesn't really meet my number one non-negotiable, which I'm looking for, but which I remember at the time was he was not a genuine Christian.
right,
And so, it was just getting you to see that, okay, he may have some of these qualities that, you know, seem good, and he may be a great guy, but he's doesn't line up with what you've told me that you're looking for.
right,
And so I remember just being able to help you. Here's how you can tell somebody no without being, rude or anything like that. You don't need to be like that. And we're trying to have a godly response to people too.
right.
And I do remember that particular guy was respectful back.
He was very respectful back, which was really
Yeah.
makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, yeah. And some women will say then, well, he was so nice when he got back to me. When I told him no, he was so nice and he was so respectful, so maybe I made the wrong decision.
Uh,
It's being like, no, you made a good decision, you know. It's just that you're looking for something else. And if you wouldn't have told him or the other people no, you would not have had what you have now.
Absolutely, yeah, and that's the biggest thing is yeah, we I know me personally, prior to your coaching and in the middle of it, I was constant. That's why I was constantly going back and forth. That's why I knew I needed guidance because I was like, man, my mind plays games on me sometimes. I'm wondering if I'm too harsh or like, oh, he's so sweet. And what really got me the most, the only reason why I was considering to still talk to him because I seen him be a dad, and that's a big thing. I mean, that's nice to see. But that was just one quality of the many qualities, like you pointed out for me. That well, he doesn't really. He's not meaning anything else. Yes, he could be a good dad, and you know,
Yeah, and we want to really be looking at, very specific, looking at what are you actually looking for? What's actually important for you? Because there are good men out there. Some people don't believe there's any good men out there, which is something I help them see in coaching because sometimes at the beginning, your confidence is so low, or, you've just been in so many bad relationships or whatever the situation may be that you're just not even believing that, there could be a good relationship for me out there, or there's no godly men out there, or whatever somebody is telling themselves, and Then the coaching helps them to see what are those things you're telling yourself, what are the lies that you're believing, and there are good men out there, but that doesn't mean that every good man is right for you.
Right. Right.
So it sounds like everything's going well. Sounds like you had a good time working with me. I had a great time working with you, like I said. So what would you say then to somebody that's on the fence about getting some help with their dating and their relationships through coaching?
I would say just to do it. It's worth the money. I just truly didn't. I didn't expect my life to be the way it would be. I wasn't expecting it to rock it off like it. But when God is in the middle of it, and the first thing about it, it can happen that way. I'm not saying it will for everybody, but I think anybody who's on the fence should just do it. It's worth it. It won't waste your time. It's worth your time, and being not just being, you have your own, we have our own sessions, but you being there for me in the messenger throughout the weeks, that
Yeah.
that extra help boost, and it was really nice, really nice. Also helps you, to see, well, okay, the next meeting we can talk about this, and it was great. It was.
Yeah, it's so good to do that in real time too, because you like the guy that you met at the park. You're kind of like, I just met him, like what do I do, And so it is good, we can use the sessions to build and work on some things. And then if something happens throughout the week, it's like I'm still available then for you to message and be like, hey, what do you think about this? And I think that if I didn't have that part built in, you may make some decisions that at the session then I would be like, well, maybe that wasn't the best decision to make, but it's already been 5 days or something.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? And so you can start to get in a little bit deeper. Whereas with the messaging, I can go ahead and give you guidance and be like, hey, you know, let me caution you about this, or here's what I think about this. And so, you're able then to make a better decision and not let it go on longer than it should, basically. And then you're right. Then at the next session, we can come back and be like, okay, so let's talk about how that was handled, like what happened, like what was going through your head. Because you said that, you would have thoughts of like, should I have let him down? He's a nice guy, like, have all these thoughts. And so you can bring them to the coaching session. And it's a safe place to talk about that stuff, and to get it out instead of being by yourself at home and you're trying to wrestle with all of this yourself.
Yeah.
Um, and one other thing that you had touched on at the beginning was you said that it then became easy for you to be able to decide, is somebody right for me or is somebody not right for me? And that's one of the main things I like to help women with is, you know, this can be easy. It might not seem easy at the beginning, but once you learn the skills, once you build all the foundational pieces and you learn the skills of your confidence, being ready to date, knowing how to go about it, knowing what questions to ask, knowing what you want. And you also said knowing what you don't want, which is also something that I focus on too. We need to know what we want and we need to know what we don't want. And so it's like once you get all those foundational pieces in place, and you learn how to navigate some of these interactions with people, then you have those skills and you know what to do in the future,
Yeah.
and so then you're able to just make the decisions and it gets easier, you know. And for me, I know when I was dating, I just got really good at looking for the red flags and recognizing them and saying no to them and
Yeah.
stopping them because I was so focused on, okay, this is not what I want. This person said this and it didn't sit well with me. And so I had those skills then to be able to say no. And so yeah, I love that you said, then it just got easy for you.
Yeah. It's funny because the first two guys I talked to, I was like, okay, what would Sarah do? And I had my little paper, and I was like, I was like looking at everything. And then it got to, like I said, it got to the point where it's like, okay, I don't need to do that. I got this now. You know, and I would message and whatnot. Because after the first session, I was a little scared to message you. It was like, I don't know I don't know the right way to put it. I don't want to blow her up, but I mean,
Yeah.
you're very easy to work with, Sarah. So it
Oh,
worthwhile. So
Good. Well, thank you very much. And like I said, I had a great time working with you. It was a lot of fun for me because this is what I love to do. I want people to be in good, healthy, godly relationships. I don't want people in relationships where they're being pushed down or pushed aside or neglected or, whatever. And so many women find themselves in situations like that. And not all of them can be prevented, but some of them can be prevented just by learning some of these skills and how to go about it. And so I really am just on a mission to to help as many women as I can, see that you can have a good relationship. You can have a healthy relationship, and God would want you to be in a good, healthy, godly relationship. And so just trying to help them get there. So anything else you'd like to say before we get off here?
Just reminder to just do it. If you're thinking about it, you're like, I don't know how to make it work. Just make it work.
Yeah,
Put
yeah.
the time in because it will be worthwhile at the long run.
So if anybody's watching this and is interested in doing coaching with me, obviously, you can follow along my page. But at the bottom of this video, I'm going to put a link to book a consult call with me. That is the next step to take. So if you're interested in coaching, if you're interested in getting this guidance to help you find a relationship, help you confidently and successfully date to find the relationship of your dreams, the first step is to book a consult call with me. And on the consult call, I'm going to be able to listen to your personal story. I'm going to hear about what are some of your struggles that you've had, what is not working with you in dating and relationships, and what are the steps that we need to take to be able to get you towards your goal of having a healthy relationship. So you can click the link and you can book a call with me there. So, Rebekah, thank you so much for being here today. I really enjoyed talking with you and connecting with you again. I'm so excited
It's
for,
nice being like this again for sure.
yeah, yeah. It's such a good thing to hear, like, you know, the end story, and of course your marriage is just beginning. You've got a lot of, good things ahead, but it's so good to hear you did reach the goal that we set out to do. And you found yourself a good godly man and a good relationship and a good stepdad to your son. So I'm super, super excited about it.
Yeah. Or hopefully they'll grow the family soon too.
Hopefully. You'll have to let me know if that happens.
Okay.
All right, Rebekah, it was great talking with you. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Have a great day.